Merry Commitmas. Happy signing day. Notre Dame signing a 2021 class of 24 players of 25 commits. And Mike, as we're talking here on 7 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, the first day of signing period, it's that one commit that hasn't signed that's the most recent piece of news. And that's Logan Diggs, the running back commit from Louisiana, who just about an hour ago has said he will not sign in the early period and wait till February. Why don't you just tell the people what they want, what they're dying to know at the position that's been no shortage of drama for this entire cycle? What's up with Logan Diggs and what has gone into that decision?
Yeah, Patrick, I was a little bit surprised. I was hearing that things were trending in a positive direction for Notre Dame and that, there was a good shot that, Notre Dame would sign him this week. Look, I'm not going to rule out that he doesn't sign with Notre Dame. If it was a foregone conclusion that he was going to go to LSU, then why wouldn't he have just signed with LSU now? And look, he tweeted out that he was going to skip this and sign in February. That doesn't mean he's still going to do it. He could still sign this week, Patrick. So there's a lot with running back, and we will cover it very in depth here in our live show. So make sure you guys keep hitting that comment box for the live chat. But we'll get into your questions. We got a few segments we want to definitely talk about. But of course, you guys. Just hang tight. We'll have a nice hour long, maybe plus. Maybe we'll go over an hour here. So hold your questions for a little bit, and we will really get into those. And yeah, running back recruiting will definitely be a top topic. Top topic, Patrick.
But yes, a lot of other stuff to get into here in this class. Signing day surprise. And yeah, 24 guys did sign their letter of intent. So anyway, thank you all for joining in here if you're watching us live on YouTube. And of course, if you're watching us back on YouTube or listening on our podcast channel, we appreciate you turning in. It's recruiting season. And if you are listening on YouTube in whatever manner, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit that thumbs up button, find much more content there throughout all this season, whatever the rest of the playoffs and playoff run, whatever happens for the rest of Notre Dame season here. And if you're listening on a podcast, please leave us a 5-star review and nice comments if you like what you hear, if you'd be so kind. And for whatever else happens in the rest of this recruiting class, head over to blueandgold.com for much more coverage. Mike will have you covered there. And you can follow us on Twitter. Follow me, Patrick Engel, at Patrick Engel _. That's ENGEL. And you can follow Mike at Rivals _Singer. And the best place to find all of Mike's recruiting content is by subscribing to blueandgold.com. Use promo code BGI30 to get a 30-day free trial. So, Mike, let's go into some of these other positions here where one little thing that we thought maybe early in the week might be an area to watch was pretty drama-free right early in the morning. Prince Kollie, linebacker out of Tennessee, signed a letter of intent. He's stuck. Of course, little surprise or pause for a minute, I guess is what we should say, when Clark Lee, the Notre Dame defensive coordinator, went to be the head coach at Vanderbilt. He was heavily involved in Prince Collie's recruitment, but Kollie stuck. Mike, take us through that and what happened there.
When the news broke that Clark Lee was going to take the Vanderbilt job, I didn't really think there was going to be a ton to worry about personally, but it turned out that he was very concerned. They built a very tight relationship, Patrick, did Clark Lee and Prince Kollie. So that there was a stun. That was kind of the emotion that he had. Disarray. I mean, all of those kind of terms. For us in the media and the fans, we kind of all expect Clark Lee to get that job. But for him, he's talking to Clark Lee all the time. He's built such a strong relationship with him. So then when the news comes out that he's leaving, it's just hey, I was just talking to you 2 days ago. This is coming out of nowhere. So, got to give a ton of credit to Nick Lazinski, defensive analyst. He has been very, very active in linebacker recruiting for Notre Dame. So he was on the phone with Prince Kollie and his coaches, and really helped solidify him back into the fold for the Fighting Irish. And Brian Kelly got on the phone with Kollie on Tuesday and really sealed the deal. And then I got a text late Tuesday night that Kollie locked in and planned to sign with the Fighting Irish. And then, the 8 hours later, it comes to fruition that he did sign with Notre Dame. So for a newsy day, and again, we'll cover all of this. This is the best news. This absolutely biggest and best news of the day, that Notre Dame held on to Prince Kollie. We've talked about him at length. He is just a beast. Brian Kelly talked about him in his press conference at 4:30 Eastern on Wednesday, that he just that perfect rover fit. Jeremiah Wusu Korma 2.0. So you just have to be ecstatic that Prince Kollie stuck in this class.
Yeah, if you guys have listened to either Mike or myself on Pod Like a Champions, if you're a podcast audience, or just us talk about him on previous videos, we're both high on Prince Collie's ability to be a star down the line for Notre Dame here, and it's a lot of what you said. And I'll just take Brian Kelly's term, game wrecker.
That was awesome.
Let me find the exact quote here. What Brian Kelly said. He wrecks your day on offense. We just saw so many similarities with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah and Prince. And yeah, it's true. That was my impression. But nonetheless, much more to cover here. And if you guys are tuning in, we really appreciate it. If you drop us a super chat, that's your way of telling us that at least, you think we're doing a decent job, and it helps us keep the lights on here at blueandgold.com. But big news there with Kollie sticking here. Personally, I think he's going to be one of the best 5 players in the class. But ultimately, going in, you figured he was solid, and well, he signed with Notre Dame, so there you go. But there's no signing day without a surprise, whatever it might be. This one was no exception, and it's that Notre Dame's taken a second quarterback in the class. Ron Paulus, name sounds familiar because it is. Ron Paulus III, the former Notre Dame quarterback's son. Notre Dame announced his addition today. He's a 3-star quarterback out of Mishawaka, Penn, of course, right next to South Bend. Didn't really see this coming, even though from what we heard, Brian Kelly and Brian Polian tell us earlier today that the plan for a little while was take a second quarterback because they really didn't want to go into it with 3 QBs or on the scholarship QBs on the 2021 roster. But Paulus ends up being that second guy. Mike, what led to the Notre Dame legacy deciding to stay home and play for the Fighting Irish?
Dude, this was a shock. I mean, yeah, and listening to Polian and Kelly's conference kind of made it seem like this plan all along, and like, of course, we were gonna take Ron Paulus on scholarship in this class, but for me, it was a total surprise. When he was announced, I was like Notre Dame announces him on Twitter. I was like, man, I should have saw this coming, right? I should have been like, yeah, of course Ron Paulus is going to be a preferred walk-on at Notre Dame, right? Like, that was not a surprise, right? But he wasn't a preferred walk-on, Patrick. He's coming in on scholarship, and thought Brian Polian made some good points that, look, next year we have 3 scholarship quarterbacks, and you really should go into a 4th. But let's kind of think about it. This year, I think they only have 3. I think last year they had 3. So they've gone with 3 in the years past. But if Brendan Clark's injury might be more severe than we think, then that's a real concern there. But that's the first thing, that this was a surprise. Did not see this one coming. And then you kind of think about it more, hear from the coaches, and yeah, it makes more sense. But as far as his film, he missed a bulk of his junior season, if not all of it. I can't remember, because of injury. Missed some games as a senior due to COVID. So recruiting process slowed down because of those things. But I know our rivals Midwest analyst Josh Hemholt is a big fan of Ron Paulus and came on our website and told us as much in terms of what he thinks about him. So make sure to go to blueandgold.com and find our story on Ron Paulus. So yeah, I mean, he's a big 6'3", 230-pound quarterback. Those guys don't grow on trees. And I think that the best thing about him is that he is going to be someone who stays in the program. Like, I don't think it's going to be a thing of, well, if I'm not starting by year 3, I'm out. Like, I think Ron Paulus will stay, all 4 or 5 years, Patrick. So I think to have that guy in your quarterback room that with him, he's going to stay and you can develop him. He's going to be great in your locker room. He bleeds blue and gold. I think those are real things to consider.
Yeah, again, just to clarify, in case you're just tuning in here watching us live, he is on scholarship. But yeah, it's interesting, especially when Pullian mentioned the idea of only going in with 3 scholarship QBs and that they've done it in the past. So you at least kind of wonder, like, oh, what if they're worried about someone, an injury, like you mentioned with Clark, or I don't know, whatever happens in QB rooms and attrition and whatnot. And I'm not trying to say anything's imminent here or anything like that at all. But I guess we just want insurance of, well, what if something happened where we had to go down to 2 and you don't want that? But yeah, signing day is surprise. And
Patrick, there's a ton of I'm all over the place on speculation. So if you guys want to speculate here, I welcome it because it might just be super simple thing, but also like there's a ton of like just thoughts I have going through my head like he probably could have been a walk-on, so like Notre Dame might have been able to have him as preferred walk-on. I don't know. I trust the coaches. They say that he was a guy that they really planned on really early in the recruiting cycle, so I will take their word for it. But it still doesn't make it less of a surprise.
yeah, and again, right now with Paulus in the quarterback room, it's him, Tyler Buckner, fellow 2021 signee, the 4-star recruit out of Southern California, Brendan Clark, be a junior, and Drew Pine, a sophomore. That's what it looks like right now. So before we move into what's next, I mean, we talked about Logan Diggs, but 25 commits, don't expect that to be the final number either. And of course, that means 24 signees isn't going to be the final number. So real quick, again, we just want to mention, feel free to leave us a super chat if you're so inclined. Again, just kind of helps us keep the lights here on at blueandgold.com. We'll love you forever. But okay, let's dive into a little bit of what's next at running back. Because Mike, we touched on Diggs, but that's not going to be it. I mean, Brian Kelly came right out and said today, like, they're taking 2 running backs. And whether that's Logan Diggs and someone else, if indeed Diggs decides to stick, or Diggs flips to LSU, the home state school that offered him as a running back. And now you're looking at 2 guys, adding them in the late period, or at least later than today when we're recording this. I'm just going to give you the floor here, Mike. Just dish on what's next. And we all know it's the main thing here up in the air is what happens and how they finish at running back.
I'm going to ask you a quick question, Patrick. When listening to the press conference, Kelly seemed pretty certain that they were even going to get 2 this week. Unless there's right. I mean that he seemed pretty certain about this week, right?
That was interesting. Yeah, I heard that. It was interesting wording where he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna get 2 guys like right away." I think I don't know. If I've learned anything about Brian Kelly, he's very deliberate in his words, and I don't think he says things by mistake or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm curious because we heard that, and then what, like 2 hours later, Diggs tweets he's waiting until February. Again, who knows? Always subject to change.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, maybe there's another surprise coming here. Well, we
That's
don't
what
know.
I was about to say. Yeah, maybe there's somebody out there, but that would be a shock to me because the names. There's 4 running back names. You have Donovan Edwards signed with Michigan. Logan Diggs, who we've talked about here. Audric Estime, the Michigan State commitment, who I still feel really good about, but also I felt fairly good about Logan Diggs, and he's just tweeted out that he's signing in February. Of course, that was after Brian Kelly's comment, so that might have been a shock to the coaching staff. And then you have Byron Cardwell, the running back from San Diego, California, who is not expected to sign this week. His plan, ever since Notre Dame offered him a few weeks ago, was to wait until February and hopefully take some self-guided tour visits in January. So that's Byron Cardwell, and yeah, I mean, unless there's someone else that we don't know about, or Byron Cardwell pushes it up, it doesn't look like Notre Dame's going to sign two backs this week. And I've been saying that. Look, Notre Dame might get two this week. They might get zero. They might get one. Like, there's just a ton on the table. Very fluid situation. So, look, Logan Diggs has been good in his communication with Notre Dame, talking to Lance Taylor and those guys every day. But he just, the word I keep hearing is torn. He's just torn between like a head and heart thing. Which school is what for him in terms of head or heart. I don't 100% know, but I think he's just torn between the pros and cons of Notre Dame and LSU, and then moving to Audric Estime again, Michigan State commitment. Um, I don't think he's gonna sign with the Spartans this week. I don't think he's gonna sign with the Spartans in February. I think the school he's going to sign with is Notre Dame. If he signs this week, it's gonna be the Fighting Irish. If he pushes until February, there's more of a chance that other schools will enter the mix and offer and all that good stuff. But this guy is just he's a big time player. His senior season was huge, ranked as the number 132 player in the country, number 7 running back. He's jumped about 80 or 90 spots in the Rivals December update. I think this guy would be the Thunder, to a Chris Tyree's Lightning. Like, pair well with Tyree and Kyron Williams, someone who could play as a true freshman in that number 3 back role as well. So, running back situation, the drama, speculation, topsy turvy, it's just kind of all over the place.
Yeah, and just worth mentioning here, because I'm sure it was something that a lot of you guys were following. Donovan Edwards, the top 100 running back out of West Bloomfield, he did choose Michigan, sign with Michigan. Just throwing that out there, because I'm sure, again, you guys were all hanging on pins and needles, even if it was trending away from Notre Dame in the last couple of days here. Yeah, Mike, I looked at running back, and look, you can tell me if I'm an idiot here or not, but
You definitely
uh,
are.
okay, well, yes, I mean that goes without saying, but in this situation, every now and again, blind squirrel finds nut, whatever. Uh, yeah, I look at Estime and think, all right, if he's going anywhere and decides to have a change of heart and sign early, yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be Notre Dame, and yeah, it would be not. It just kind of continues to evolve and no shortage of running back differences. But if Notre Dame were able to grab him, that would be just further, putting the holes in the Will Shipley narrative, all eggs in one basket, or that they'd be completely, messed up and out of options from there. But anyway, let's move on here to another area where we heard Brian Kelly talk about it, and that was he expects to sign another defensive back. And the name that comes to mind, of course, is C.R. Wright, the Rivals 250 corner out of LA. But Mike, why don't you kind of recap where that one's at? And if there's anything else here where, I mean, it sounded a little more convincing to me that it wouldn't just be right or bust for a secondary spot. That maybe there's gonna be someone they just kind of look to in February and start recruiting in January and throw an offer out to then if Sierra Wright doesn't end up coming to Notre Dame.
That I got that as well. It very much seemed like, look, we want another DB in this class, which would make 6. It very much was see a right or bust, but man, recruiting is very fluid. We'll just leave it at that. Sierra Wright's recruitment will start there. Uh, he wanted his plan all along was to announce his commitment at the All American Bowl. That has been canceled, so he's kind of doing like a virtual All American Bowl announcement, commitment ceremony type deal. The main players here right now, at least publicly, are USC, Notre Dame. That's what most folks think. The recruitment training tour, but I still hear Stanford sometimes, still hear Oregon. I believe he took a self-guided tour there not too long ago. Michigan's still in the mix, but confidence in Ann Arbor is waning. That they'll be able to land here, right? So might be a USC Notre Dame battle, but that one is very much up in the air. Battle still raging on. He is not signing this week, guys. So some recruits, I think Corey Foreman, the 5-star defensive end from California, he is doing a whole thing where he's signing this week and then waiting a couple weeks to announce it. From what I'm told, C.R. Wright is not doing that. He has planned to skip this signing period. It's finals week at his high school. He's totally focused on finals. Skip the signing period, announce January 2nd, and then sign in February. As far as other names, if you guys are watching this on YouTube and I keep looking over, it's because I've been checking my phone. I got people texting me, and I'm not gonna speculate too hard right now. But there's look, signing day in this recruiting class has all sorts of things going on. Our recruiting, my trusted sidekick Mason Plummer just texted me saying Armani Goodwin just committed to LSU. That's another running back recruit. So now LSU has signed Corey Kiner and Armani Goodwin. So that's 2 running back signees. I had been mentioning on blueandgold.com that this Goodwin character from Alabama was going. I don't know why I called him character. That's just what I thought of. I don't know Armani Goodwin, but Armani Goodwin, I projected on our blueandgold.com message board that he would be signing with LSU. And look, when Notre Dame offered Byron Cardwell a month ago, Logan Diggs didn't really love that. And then, look, Lance Taylor tells him, here's the scholarship numbers. We really need to take a second back in this class. So Logan Diggs knows that. And then they offer Audric Estime on Monday, again, just 2 days ago. And Diggs didn't seem to love that, even though, he knew that, Notre Dame was taking another running back. So now I wonder how he feels about, potentially being a third running back in the class. I am told from LSU sources that they're looking to take a third back. Maybe if it's a Diggs or bust situation for a third back, but that's what I'm told. So that might help Notre Dame. Maybe he's like, well, forget them. I want to sign this week. It's it's hour by hour type thing.
It does seem good for Notre Dame, though, that, and I'm sure this was just a pure coincidence. LSU offered right after he came back from his self-guided campus tour because he said, yeah, I'm not signing with the school I haven't visited. And I don't know. It seems to me that, if that wasn't the case, maybe he already would have flipped. I don't know. This is just me kind of thinking out loud, reacting in real time to the situation. That was my thought back then. But yeah, now that maybe it all worked out in the case that LSU didn't offer until after that visit, and now he's looking at a situation where either school is going to have at least one other back in the backfield with him.
Yeah, I've said that as well, that the timing of if LSU's offer to Diggs couldn't have been better for Notre Dame, in that, Diggs was like the only commit at that time who had not stepped foot on campus at Notre Dame. So he tweeted out that he loved it. He wasn't able to get into the game, which I know he wasn't happy about. It's just the dead period stuff. You can't get in the game. No general public's allowed at the Notre Dame home game. So, but he loved. From what he tweeted out and what I've heard, he really enjoyed his time on campus. So then LSU offers like the day after he gets back from South Bend. So he has that visit and that experience fresh in his mind. I don't think it was too cold that weekend. I think it was in the 30s. Patrick?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So it wasn't too bad for a kid from the South, but I don't know what else to say about Logan Diggs. It's pretty much he may He may not. Like, but the word, as he tweeted before we started going live here, Patrick, is that he's skipping the early signing period. But also, could this news of Armani Goodwin signing with LSU, like, might he tweet out an LOL or hand to the face emoji or something like that? So he very much wears his emotions on his Twitter page. A big fan of Logan Diggs.
Still got 48 hours left of this signing period, so
Yep.
lot can change in that amount of time, and much less as you've come to know all too well in recruiting. But let's tackle the question that everybody's kind of wondering that Brian Kelly was asked today, or sort of, but at least touching on the idea of it. How good is this class?
Yeah.
And is it at least pushing Notre Dame closer to a national title? Has a chance of finishing the top 10. I'm not sure we would have thought there's much of a chance of that in June or May or somewhere in there. But yeah, last 6 months, it's kind of steadily headed back toward that area. But yeah, Mike, again, I'll just give you the floor here to think about that big picture question. I'm asking you to take a big thing and kind of, make it smaller. But what do you think?
All right. Let's just go position by position, Patrick. So for our YouTube audience, have it pulled up on the page, or excuse me, the commit page, signee page on our YouTube live stream here. And this is a class that let me check as we're going live here, that I believe is still ranks number 9 in the country per Rivals. Number 10 now. Maybe Michigan jumped Notre Dame. Checking it. No, Michigan dropped to 11. Miami jumped Notre Dame. So USC was 11 coming into the day. Notre Dame was at 9. USC jumps Notre Dame. Michigan fell a couple spots. Notre Dame dropped 1 spot. Miami apparently had a pretty good day here. So yeah, let's just go through the positions. So receiver, Lorenzo Styles, elite, right? No doubt. Like, everyone wanted him. Like, that's an elite prospect. Deion Colzie, I don't care what people say. Georgia wanted him. Maybe he didn't have a committable offer right before, he announced his commitment to Notre Dame, because, they knew he was going to Notre Dame. And Jaden Thomas, another bona fide 4-star receiver with big-time offers from the Peach State. So very good wide receiver haul. Kane Barong, tight end from Georgia, had all of the offers. Once Chip Long left, more schools started offering him because they wanted in on this tight end talent. Mitchell Evans, the big man from Ohio, intriguing athlete, might grow into a tackle someday. First team punter in Ohio. The dude's just an athlete, basketball player. We have running back Logan Diggs on the screen. And it says verbal next to him and not signed like everyone else again. So running back situation, you basically don't have any running back commits. Logan Diggs on paper is committed to Notre Dame, but for the sake of this, Notre Dame doesn't have any running backs. So that's kind of the hole in the class right now. Quarterback, can't believe I'm saying it. You got 2 scholarship quarterbacks in this class. Tyler Buckner, everyone loves him. Elite 11 finalist, Under Armour All-American, accounted for 81 touchdowns. He's really the key to the class. You got to get the quarterback position right. So that's a big time player. Ron Paulus, I don't know. I don't know what he is. I don't know his ceiling. I'm still learning about Ron Paulus III. But just looking at the quarterback spot, Tyler Buckner, really that big name player. Offensive line, and this is the best unit in Notre Dame's class. Blake Fisher, bona fide 5-star. I mean, what a sick, mean, bully offensive lineman Blake Fisher is. Steve Perry, super chat. We appreciate that, my man. Appreciate you donating. Yep, shout out to you, Steve Perry. Fisher, 5-star player. Alabama, Michigan, all of the schools were after him before he committed in. Ohio State, Oklahoma, all those powerhouse programs. Went and saw him in the fall. Blake Fisher looked incredible. Pat Coogan, 3-star offensive lineman from Chicago Marist. Versatile player, center, guard, tackle. He will probably be center. The thing that I love about Notre Dame's offensive line, Patrick, Actually, I need to say this real quick before I forget about Coogan. The first play of his junior highlight tape is him as a long snapper and making a tackle on the punt team. I freaking love that. Love Pat Coogan.
Football guy.
Absolutely. So Notre Dame basically has a starting 5 offensive line here. You have Pat Coogan at center. Let's put Rocco Spindler at left guard. And then I'm going to throw Joe Alt at left tackle. My man Joe Alt. I'm the president of the Joe Alt fan club. And then you have on the right side, Blake Fisher and Caleb Johnson. Both of these guys are tackle guard combo prospects that they could be very good at both. I'll say for this that Blake would play right guard and Caleb Johnson right tackle, but again, it could be flipped because I love on Caleb Johnson's tape seeing him pull. So it's like a full offensive line just committed in the class, and it's a very good unit. Joe Alt, I love, listed at 6'7", 270. Every time I talk about him, he gains 5 pounds. The dude just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Rocco Spindler, a top 100 player. Michigan wanted him super bad down the stretch, and the Fighting Irish were able to win that recruitment. So that's the offensive breakdown. So if you look at this class, does this push Notre Dame closer to a national title? Is it more in that good but not, or very good but not elite category? I don't know. I mean, I just went through it. Receiver, that checks the box for me. Tight end, maybe not Michael Mayer, maybe not Cole Kmet, but Kane Brong has a high ceiling. Mitchell Evans is a boomer bust guy in my opinion. Running back, still very up in the air. Quarterback, you hit with Tyler Buckner in my opinion. In the offensive line is the strongest unit in the entire class. So yeah, Patrick, I mean, I think that's a pretty darn elite group.
For a minute there, I thought you were going to forget to mention Joe Alt, which would have just been a cardinal sin here. Now, this is a pro Joe Alt podcast show, whatever form it's in. Yeah, I mean, I think he has left tackle traits and that kind of upside. So, yeah, I mean, if you just look at some of look, you can use the narrative every year of like long-term project or whatever label you choose to put on it, but as far as upside in those lower rated project whatever guys, with him, I think it's as high as anyone else on the line. And I say that as a fan of Blake Fisher, having seen him in person, where the floor is really high, I think there. And again, Caleb Johnson, same thing. You have to like the athleticism and and the ability to just to move. So yeah, I think just kind of fits, right? I mean, we've seen what the offensive line that currently starts for Notre Dame does now. Only fitting that they sign a group of 5 that I think stacks up really well with anyone else's offensive line haul.
Yeah.
So let's talk.
One more quick thing on offensive line.
Yeah.
They recruit tackles and move them inside. Like Jarrett Patterson was listed as a tackle. So this unit, per Rivals, all of them are listed as tackles. Blake Fisher is a guard or tackle. When I went and saw him in October with the aforementioned Mason Plummer, he was playing center because their starting center was out. Pat Coogan, likely an inside guy, but in a pinch could slide outside. Joe Alt, in my opinion, is definitely an edge guy, but you could always slide him inside. Rocco Spindler played a ton of left tackle in his high school career, but to me, he's a mauler and an inside player. And Caleb Johnson it can play. So you love versatility. Notre Dame is all about their versatility, Patrick, and they have that in this offensive line unit. And yeah, move into defense. You see all those DBs: Justin Walters, Ryan Barnes, Chance Tucker, Philip Riley, JoJo Johnson. I'm gonna start with these guys, and Patrick, I'll let you break down the kicker because I'm gonna need a breath, but because you have so many. So we just talked about this, 5 or this offensive line unit that you basically could trot out a starting offensive line. It's pretty similar with the defensive backfield. You have a strong, hard hitting safety in Justin Walters from Chicago. And Ryan Barnes, he would probably come in as a corner, Patrick, but very good, rangy player who I feel like his home is probably at free safety. Chance Tucker, in my opinion, a very good field corner. He's got that length at 6'1", 170, but I think so he could play in the boundary. But to me, he's the best pure cover player in this class for Notre Dame. So I like him out in the field. Philip Riley, we've talked about this. He's so big. I think he could potentially be a stinking rover. Philip Riley, boundary guy. Maybe he goes to safety at some point in his career, but I would start him out, Patrick, in the boundary. And then JoJo Johnson, listed at 5'11" and 170, might be, more in the 5'9", 5'10" range, but a very good nickel player. So there you go. There you got a couple safeties, you got your two corners, and you got your nickel guy. It might almost be like that is what Notre Dame planned it like that.
Shouts to you, Michael, for leaving us that super chat. But
let's answer his question real quick. What does he say?
Yeah.
Would Notre Dame sign lower ranked backs just to have them in the class? I'll say this real quick, Mike. Notre Dame does not care what the guys are ranked. So maybe you said ranked, but you mean like less heralded players. But I can tell you, they've taken recruits that are 3 stars and passed on 4 stars. So they don't care about your star rankings. They don't, and they shouldn't. If they are trusting, Rivals or 24/7 or ESPN rankings, then they're not doing their own job. So they shouldn't. Maybe if 2 recruits are exactly equal, then they might take, the higher ranked guy for optics, but I don't know if that's ever been a conversation with the staff. But so to answer, maybe replace ranked with heralded. They want 2 running backs in this class. I'm going to drop this little tidbit for you guys, a little nugget. I heard that at some points during this fall, Notre Dame had to use a walk-on receiver. I want to say maybe it was a walk-on DB, but a walk-on player at different running back positions, more so on the scout side, because Notre Dame just didn't have the bodies. So they need 2 backs. You're definitely going to bring back Kyron Williams and Chris Tyree next year. You already had Jafar Armstrong move to receiver. Maybe he could slide back to running back if he returns next year. Jameer Smith left the football team. Does Sibo Flemister come back, or is he okay with being, older than Chris Tyree and Kyron Williams? And Patrick, you can tell me if my thought process is wrong here, because you cover the beat side of things for the Notre Dame football team for us at blueandgold.com. But if I'm the older back of Tyree and Williams, and I'm Sibo Flemister, it's not like these guys are going to graduate and I'm going to get my turn. So, he might, look to transfer.
I don't think he's invisible, though. I mean, in each of his 3 years, his role has grown and he's played better. I mean, okay, you have a 2-year sample of that, but you see growth from his 2019 to 2020, and you went from redshirt to, I think he had 48 carries in 2019, now to he's legitimately in the rotation. There's been a couple of games where he's been nicked up or held out or whatnot, but he adds an element that those other guys don't. So I wouldn't worry about that if I'm just thinking through the idea of what his role here is and what his skill set brings. I think there's still a lot for him to offer there. But yeah, Mike, I want to go back to defense for a minute. And
yeah, we skipped that. I got to have you break down the kicker. So what do you?
Well,
Chelsea O'Brien, 6-star.
First off, if you're a president of the Joe Alt fan club, can I just anoint myself? And I know I have passed podcast on the record, whatever evidence to back this up, as the president of the Chance Tucker fan club.
Yeah, you want to be
underrated. You see the fluidity, see the ability to locate the ball and turn around
Mm,
and find the ball. You want to
that's
see both of them in a field corner,
That's my biggest
especially.
thing. I love that about his tape. I remember interviewing his coach a couple of days after Chance committed, and he's talking up his attributes, and I'm like, dude, how have you not even talked about his ability to turn around and see the ball? And then he was raving about that. That's the number one thing to me is just how he just does so well out on an island, and someone who's still relatively new to the position too. I think his junior year was his only year playing corner. I want to say the year before he was more so a receiver and a safety. This is just off the top of my head for my memory, but yeah, I'll anoint you president of the Chance Tucker fan club if I'm allowed to be vice president. Not to get too corny.
I mean, I've been with you there in running the vice presidency of the Joe Alt fan club. And yes, I think he has the tackle traits, but also it's just cool that he plays at a high school that's named for the guys who invented and started the pizza rolls. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, as a completely aside, I mean, in the class, Notre Dame has a player from Totino Grace High School for the pizza rolls, and Prince Kollie from Davy Crockett High School. That's pretty cool. So yeah, sometimes you see like the all name signing day team. I mean, Notre Dame's got some good contenders for all high school name, or as far as where they're coming from here. But yeah, Joshua Bryan, kicker, flipped him from Colorado. Even though it seems likely, based on what Jonathan Dorr told us and just kind of the expectation, is that he will return for next year. It would be only his fifth year on campus. He did not take a redshirt. He's a 2017 uh, original signee, and ultimately, like, I don't really think that mattered as far as like, oh, if he doesn't come back, you take the kicker. If he does, you don't. I mean, you can redshirt. A lot of kickers do. As true freshman. But also, Dora's scholarship doesn't count toward the 85 if he comes back, just because of how that free eligibility year rule works. And I mean, I don't really see the harm in like, hey, you have a really, really highly regarded kicker who wants to come to your school. If they offer him, I would just take him a year early and redshirt it if you have to, because Dora comes back, and just get that guy and make sure you have him. So I figured that was going to happen regardless of what Dorer did. Notre Dame just had to decide it wanted the kicker, and it did, and it
Yeah.
flipped him from Colorado,
Yeah.
and one of 6 flips as it stands right now in the 2021 class.
Yeah, you don't want to rely on a true freshman as a kicker. I could see it more as a punter, relying on a true freshman. Um, because that kicker, you got to have stones to make those big plays in those big moments. Punter, you can certainly make some big mistakes as a punter, letting the ball slip through your hands. But yeah, you don't want to rely on a true freshman kicker. And Polian even mentioned in his press conference that the pandemic that actually kind of helped. That's the one area where it helped Notre Dame because they got to bring Jonathan Dewar back next year and not have to rely on a true freshman kicker. Moving along here, kind of on the theme of our defensive chat discussion. John A1 with the super chat $5. We really appreciate that. He says, I think losing Abiara hurt the defensive class. Hopefully not. So let's talk about this defensive line class, guys. Gabriel Rubio. You know what? We might be able to do the whole thing of just making a defensive line. Like we may make a starting O line, make a backfield. So let's look. Notre Dame got 4 defensive linemen in this class. So let's make that front group. Gabriel Rubio might be more suited for 3 tech than nose tackle, but he's the biggest for this. So we'll say that he keeps beefing up. I think he has the potential to play that 3 tech defensive tackle spot as a true freshman like Jacob Lacey did in 2019. But for the sake of this, we'll put Gabriel Rubio at nose tackle. We'll slide Jason Onyé from the 5 technique strong side defensive end to 3 tech. We'll say that Devin Alpew, that's how you pronounce that last name, and Will Schweitzer are both Vipers, that weak side defensive end spot. But let's just say Devin Upau beefs up a good bit. You put him a strong side, Will Schweitzer over at weak side, or maybe vice versa. There's pretty strong defensive line group. So in terms of losing Abiara, you guys will have to let me know. I didn't actually see if he is signed anywhere today. Not sure what's going on with the former Irish commitment. But yeah, I mean, look, he decommitted or announced his decommitment. I want to say it was the day before Thanksgiving, and it was just one of those things where it was just brewing for several months. Off the field things just didn't work out. I don't think Notre Dame is, it hurts them that Abiara didn't sign. Will Schweitzer was actually the guy that they took in that spot, and then Devin Upau was kind of I don't want to call it a luxury ad, but that it wasn't really the plan originally to take 3 defensive ends in the class, but that's what ended up happening. So Schweitzer was kind of the replacement, quote unquote, for Abiar, and then Upau was added later on. So yeah, Abiar is a talented player, great size, could have been a pretty good strong side end, but those situations just sometimes happen off the field. You also mentioned, John, Notre Dame did need to bring in DBs in numbers this year. Boy, are they? It's looking like 6 DBs. Like we mentioned, it did seem like 5 and then Sierra Wright. Or if not Sierra Wright, then you're sticking with your 5. But it's trending towards the Irish definitely getting to 6. So we're gonna have a dime package to trot out on our next show potentially. And you also say you're excited about Prince Kollie. So let's talk about him. We opened the show with him. Do you think the Jeremiah Wusu Koromoa comparisons, Patrick, are kind of a little bit too much too soon? I mean, that's a lot of expectations for a young man. He's not playing against the best competition in Northeast Tennessee. I've seen the ball up there. He is a man amongst boys there. But what I always say is, if you're going to play against lesser competition, you better freaking dominate, and that's what Prince Kollie did this year.
I don't know that I would straight up say this is like a good comparison when you go through everything they do and whatnot. But as far as how Notre Dame wants to use them, their ability to wreck games, their explosiveness. Okay, that is kind of the common thread there that you see. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm bad at comparisons. I don't like being overzealous with them. But yeah, just in terms of the kind of athlete Notre Dame wants at Rover and what has succeeded best at Rover, just when you look at Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, yeah, I think that works. But yes, I mean, Jeremiah's high school league was a lot different as far as competition level. But either way, whatever similar or not similar you think he is, it's a really good ad for Notre Dame.
Yeah. And then the last guy we want to talk about before we really dive into questions from our YouTube chat is Kahanu Kia, 6'2", 205-pound linebacker for Notre Dame. He plans to enroll at Notre Dame in the summer, stay for a year, and then take a 2-year Mormon mission trip. That would not count against his eligibility, so then he would come back to Notre Dame, and if my math is correct, 2024 as a sophomore, a true sophomore. So, it's pretty intriguing. But there's also, the possibility he could, not come back after his mission. That is always a possibility when kids take LDS trips. So, he's a really good player. I call him a modern day linebacker, and Prince Kollie certainly is as well. But Kia to me is more of a definitely going to be an inside guy, whereas Rover for Kollie seems like the best fit. But I really like Kahanu Kia. All right, let's start off getting into questions, Patrick. We got another super chat.
All right, Joe, shouts to you. And Joe asked, do you think the reason Notre Dame signed Ron Paulus is that they're afraid that whoever loses the quarterback competition will transfer. Mike, what say you?
No, but also I kind of said that he's like a good guy to just know that he's always going to be in your quarterback room. But I don't think that they're going into this season like saying, all right, this guy is going to transfer. Um, Look, like I said earlier, guys, I'm still wrapping my head around them taking a scholarship quarterback. I was talking to somebody earlier today, and they were like, that's not that big of news. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, what does Steve Angeli think, the 2022 quarterback recruit who I feel very good about Notre Dame landing, and he's going to be on campus this weekend for a self-guided tour. Like, what does he think about Notre Dame, taking two quarterbacks in the class? I don't know. I haven't talked to Steve. So, there's just a lot of things I'm still trying to get my head around the impact of this. But do I think the reason Notre Dame signed Paulus is they're afraid whoever loses the quarterback competition will transfer? I hope they put Ron Paulus on scholarship because they think he can play. That's what my hope is. I can't tell you what the Notre Dame staff is thinking, but I really do hope that's just because they think he can play.
Yeah, I mean, you're always mindful of quarterback attrition, but I mean, I don't know. This competition is what's August from now, 9 months away from happening. So I can't imagine that they're worried about that too much right now. But yeah, I mean, just looking at the math, I guess it's always something to consider as far as what happens in a worst case scenario. Okay, more questions here. Technical technician
That's
says,
what a great
Schweitzer,
name.
I know. Schweitzer will surprise. Don't be blinded or your judgment clouded by his pigmentation.
Yeah, there's another comment that Schweitzer's gonna be a full-year practice squad guy. I really like Schweitzer. He's a guy who played linebacker as a junior. So Notre Dame was actually originally looking at him as a linebacker. The Irish really liked him, but they couldn't really figure out where he fit best. This is a guy Kollie really liked, and then it worked out that the Abiara was kind of looking around and everything, so they found Schweitzer, and I really like him. I don't know. I think he's actually. I agree with our technical technician. I think he's he's got the ability to really be a surprise taking this surprise guy in this class as a 3-star. Maybe he would have been big time as a senior. He had a very nice junior season as well at Los Gatos in California. Totaled over 100 tackles, I believe, in the season. So he's a really good player, and I would say he was playing out of position last year as well. I think he's going to be very good off the edge.
Yeah, he playing like inside linebacker
Yeah.
in his. I remember going through some of his junior film that he put out there, and you see him at some of those
Yep.
inside linebacker spots. But you notice the speed and fluidity there too, like you touched on. But okay, let's move on to another West Coast player here, and that's Titus Makayo Altamalala, the
Great job.
four-star athlete out of Hawaii. Mike, what happened to his recruitment? Is he still a possibility? Is Notre Dame still talking to him? I know that's one name that initially I believe you had a future cast pick in for a while ago. But
I called that one a projection pick. I put that one in the summer. I want to say it was middle of June. Just felt like Notre Dame was doing the best job in that recruitment, and like we've said a ton on these shows, Patrick, is that Notre Dame has just outlasted a lot of schools. I thought they were going to outlast some programs for Titus. I have not heard any buzz with Notre Dame and Titus. I moved my future cast pick from Notre Dame to unlikely. That's a new feature we got for our future cast picks, Patrick. Is he still a possibility? Sure, he is not signing this week. I would be surprised if Polian, who of course recruits Hawaii, isn't checking in here and there to see how just Titus is doing. But USC's in there, UCLA, UCF is actually in there because he was able to visit there a couple years ago, so he's always kind of liked UCF. Being able to see a school is huge to him. Devin Upau, the defensive end from California, he committed and signed to Notre Dame without ever visiting campus. Titus just could not get his head around that. Logan Diggs told me a month ago that he was not. Maybe I shouldn't say he's not. He could not see himself or he didn't want to sign with the school that he had not seen. So it was very important for him to get to Notre Dame. Titus is the same way. This is like going from Honolulu to South Bend. Is just not the easiest trip in the world. And Jordan Patelho was able to do that last year. He took one visit to Notre Dame, and that was his official, and then he committed, and the next time he's on campus was when he enrolled. So Titus just can't see himself doing that. So I understand. But so I don't expect him to land at Notre Dame unless things just unexpectedly progress well there.
Next question here from Tim. Do you think Notre Dame has a chance of getting Sierra right? I know you touched on it a little bit, but anything else new there? I mean, I know this is one that's going to drag into January.
Yeah. Michigan writer E.J. Holland, big. I think Notre Dame fans love him. He put in a FutureCast pick for Notre Dame to land right. That was a surprise to me. I've always had the feeling that he's a USC guy. He's gonna be a movie star. I think right now he only has like 1,000 something followers, but when that movie comes out, he's gonna go up to like 500,000. I mean, you're playing LeBron James' son in Space Jams 2. You're going to be big time here in a minute. And he was cast for that like a year ago. I want to say last summer is like when he was cast for that. So, I mean, it's a long time coming that he's going to be a household name. So, just movie star guy, it just makes sense for USC, but Notre Dame just keeps hanging around in this recruitment, Patrick.
Yeah, another outlasting type of situation, isn't it? Where, I mean, it's just kind of last one standing, and Notre Dame was his last visit, I believe, before the dead period. But yeah, and I got if Notre Dame wins that one, it will have outlasted a lot of teams. All right, more of a current roster question, but Terrence Kreider, hopefully I got that right, says, why is everyone forgetting Drew Pine is on the roster? This kid can play the quarterback position and is an absolute student of the game. Mike, you covered Pine's recruitment, or at least the latter stages of it. What do you think about Drew Pine? I mean, right now he's operating as a number 2 quarterback.
I popped this question on the screen because I do. I am a big fan of him. I think I say this a lot with Notre Dame recruits, Patrick, is I just love these kids. These kids are awesome. Drew Pine. If you guys listen to the audio version of our Pod Like a Champion podcast, Patrick cut it together. It's got really cool music and everything. And then there's, quote, one's Blake Fisher talking about how he's going to bring in all the guys. And then there's a quote from Lorenzo Styles saying, you're listening to Pod Like Champion. Well, the other quote in there is from Drew Pine, just talking about. So if you guys listen to our podcast, you'll hear it. He's talking about how he loves the visit and how the player walk, and there's just nothing like Notre Dame. He just loves Notre Dame so much, such a passion. I wonder if Pine, it would be someone who would stick around for the long haul and not transfer out if he's not starting. So love Drew Pine, love that family. As far as him as a player, I keep hearing really good things about him at practice. He was very much the number 2 guy for that the Syracuse game, and Clark being injured had a huge thing to do about it. But when Drew Pine has come in, I think he's looked good. He's looked very small. Even Ian Book, a lot of people say he's small, but that's a grown ass man at this point. Drew Pine's 19-year-old kid, so he looks small, but he's just gonna keep growing. I don't know. I agree with you, Terrence. I think Drew Pine, is his ceiling Ian Book? Maybe that's a pretty darn good ceiling. Ian Book is now has the all-time win record for Notre Dame as a starting quarterback. So yeah, Patrick, I just wanted to touch on Drew Pine real quick.
So I'll bring up a question here, really for everybody, but for you, Mike, even see if I think I might have mentioned this a long time ago or on a previous Pod Like a Champion and written about it. But like I said, Notre Dame has 6 flips in this class. and I don't know the exact number. I think it's 40 something players that were committed to Notre Dame who were previously committed elsewhere since Brian Kelly took over. What school has Notre Dame take or secured the most former commitments of? All right, let me make that a little clearer. Uh, there are two schools that have had four players once committed to them to end up at Notre Dame under Brian Kelly, like since he took over. I asked this to everybody, but even you, Mike, do you know who they are? I'll
I'm
give you
not.
a hint.
I'm not
One
answering.
of them hasn't happened since 2015. Like hasn't Notre Dame hasn't flipped anybody from there since then. And the other, the one that got it to four to tie this other school was in this class. So we'll monitor here and see if anybody gets it before I tell you guys at the end of the show here. But yes, trivia time you right there. Okay. Did we touch on the Clark Lee to Vanderbilt situation already? Yes. I mean, I know the main kind of thing there as far as recruiting is concerned was Prince Kollie. Didn't end up being a concern, but Mike, I don't know. I'll let you add anything you want to add here.
Yeah, Kanukia didn't waver at all. I mean, Notre Dame hit up all the defensive commits, and defensive lineman Mike Elston pretty much handles that by himself. He's a one man wrecking crew. Mike Ogujuin is the new kind of right hand man. Came over from Texas Tech. I believe he's an SMU grad. Patrick, shout out,
Yeah.
shout out to you. So those two have done a really good job of defense line. So you didn't worry about anyone there. Obviously, Prince Kollie we touched on. Kuhanu Kia didn't waver. In the secondary, he was very much involved with Philip Riley, Ryan Barnes, and Chance Tucker. Checked in with all three of those guys the morning after the news broke, and all very good with their Notre Dame commitments. Really wished him the best of luck. I think it played a big role that Lee wasn't going to be their position coach. So, they still have Mickens, they still have Joseph. Polian's also very involved with defensive back recruiting. I'd say even more so than, he's involved with everybody, Polian is, but even more so with the defensive backfield. So in the 2022 class, Nolan Ziegler's a linebacker commit. He really likes Clark Lee. It might take a nuclear explosion for Nolan Ziegler not to go to Notre Dame. It would take a lot more than a coaching change for Ziegler to go elsewhere. And then look, there's some 2022 targets for Notre Dame at linebacker. Pretty, not excited about Clark Lee. He's done a very good job in 2022 recruiting. I've seen people question. I've been covering Notre Dame for a year and a half at BlueandGold.com. I've seen people question Clark Lee as a recruiter. Well, people seem pretty beat up. Sebastian Cheeks, I have a future cast picking for him to land at Notre Dame. It's a top 100 caliber linebacker from Chicago. He's not excited about Clark Lee leaving. He really built a strong relationship with him. So that's kind of the impact. He did a really good job. I call him a professor, Professor Lee. Just a very smart dude. Belongs at a school like Vanderbilt or Notre Dame, he's just going to keep doing great things. The thing with me and Clark Lee is, some people are great coordinators and some people are not great head coaches. Which one is Clark Lee going to be? We know he's a great coordinator, but can he also be a great coach, a head coach, I should say? We'll find out. Vanderbilt's not an easy place to turn around, but he loves that place.
So speaking of some linebacker targets, namely Prince Kollie, Quinn Kelly asked, who are the top 5 players in this class prediction? And I mentioned Kollie because he would be in mind. Like I said earlier, I think when we're looking back at this class after 5 years after they've signed, he will have been one of the 5 best players in the class. Now, as far as the others, I mean, I don't know that I have a 1 through 5 itemized thing. All I know is Kollie is in there. I feel pretty good about Lorenzo Styles being in that group. Same with Blake Fisher. I will say those are the 3 that I'm most confident in either living up to their ranking, or if you want to call it that, or just being impact guys, multi-year starters, guys with a shot at the pros, who end up being cornerstones for the offense or defense.
All right, yeah. Styles for sure. Blake Fisher for sure. Prince Kollie for sure. Yeah, those are your no-brainers. So now you're looking at 2 more. Gabriel Rubio I think we forget about him because he committed so early. He set the sack record at his high school last year with 18 sacks and racked up 100 tackles. He's definitely number, maybe not to put numbers on, that fourth guy we'll mention. He is a very good prospect. But again, he's second committed to the class. No drama whatsoever. So people don't talk about him a ton. But number 5, probably Buckner. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to talk about best, athlete, Buckner might be the best athlete in the entire class. So, and man, you can stack that 5 up against really anybody. I mean, Blake Fisher, Tyler Buckner, Lorenzo Styles, Prince Kollie, and Gabriel Rubio. Go look at those offer lists. And while I'm on the thing, or I mentioned offer list, Patrick, our boy technical technician, and we're gonna sign off here after this this comment question, but I gotta give some love to my dude Kane Brong. So here's what technical technician says: Mike, is it just you and I that still have faith in Kane Brong's talent and skills? My lord, the national recruiting talking heads have literally trashed him. It's crazy. That Southern boy is legit. I mean, TT knows that I have faith in him. Patrick, you have faith in Kane Brong? You familiar with him much? You being able to see his tape?
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised he's continued to tumble too. I mean, like you said, it would be unfair to say anyone is Michael Mayer just because. I mean, literally, Michael Mayer is among the most productive Notre Dame freshman tight ends in history.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm baffled by why he's continued to slide after playing this year, and by all accounts, playing well. And it's not
Yeah.
one of those things where, oh, the senior season was disappointing, he peaked early or whatever. That doesn't seem like the case. So yeah, I think that will be proven bizarre. I'll put it that way. And I'm completely with you on Gabriel Rubio, by the way. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, it seems like he's almost like been a part of this class, or you don't think about it because he's been committed for a while. Yeah, just remember him is what I'll say there. You look at disruption from an interior lineman. He's going to bring that in droves.
Yeah.
So, and I think you look at Notre Dame's defensive line the past couple of years as something that that could use as a legit like dude pass rusher on the interior, even though their interior line disruption has gone up this year. But
Yeah.
yes, time for the trivia question. I saw a couple of you guys in the comments get it right, or at least get one of the two schools right. One of them was USC, and Philip Riley got that to 4th. The other 3 former USC commits: Dalen Hayes, Max Redfield, and Eddie Vanderdoes, who technically never made it, but he's included in here because he signed a letter of intent.
Yep, that counts.
So USC, 4 of those former guys. And then the other one that hasn't happened since 2015, but it has happened 4 times: Penn State. And that would be Brandon Wimbish, Josh Barajas, local Merrillville product, just like JoJo Johnson in this class, Will Fuller, and Jaron Jones. Now, there's a few others with 3, Maryland being one of them, most notably Jonathan Dora. But yes, those 2 are the ones with 4.
Penn State and USC are recruiting rivals for Notre Dame as well. They go up against those guys a lot. Kind of hoping Michigan might have been one, but maybe next time.
Yeah, look at the exact number of former Michigan commits who have flipped to Notre Dame under Brian Kelly. I believe it's just Sean Crawford, which is a pretty good one. But yeah, it is Crawford. I saw a couple of guesses for Cincinnati. That's only 2. One of them being JoJo Johnson in this class. Before that, Notre Dame hadn't flipped a commit once headed for Cincinnati since Brian Kelly's first class. So I mean, we're getting way deep into the weeds here of past recruiting flips and things, but I'm sure it brings up some interesting memories. In this case, fun ones for a lot of you guys. But yeah, that's it. Now you can drop that trivia question on your other Notre Dame friends when you're talking about the. I was going to say talking about the class over water cooler tomorrow, but I don't think anyone's going to the office too much these days.
Especially not after National Signing Day. People, it's like the post Super Bowl day. Like you don't go into work after that.
Yeah, I mean, people are just too busy pouring them out for celebrating Prince Kollie sticking with Notre Dame, right?
There you go, Patrick. All right, let's get out of here. Sign them off, Patrick.
All right, we appreciate you guys tuning in live. Thanks for all the questions, the listenership, the super chats, and if you're listening on our podcast platform or watching us back on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast. Find much more content there from myself, from Mike, and from our other staff members covering the rest of this Notre Dame season. We will talk to you again on, Mike and I will at least, the next episode of Pod Like a Champion. Until then, take care. Happy recruiting season.